Hello hunters, Shadow Armaments have arrived in the game, giving our shadows a major power boost. But which ones benefit the most for this new system? In this video, we'll be ranking the shadows based on their brand new armaments, and how much impact they bring to your team. We're breaking this down into two key factors. First, their own damage boost, meaning how much raw power they gain, and the second, the utility they provide, like any extra buffs or effects that benefits your hunter. If you haven't noticed yet, Shadow Armaments are mainly focused on increasing your shadow's damage, but some also bring extra utility that could be game-changing. So let's dive in and see which shadows are worth investing. Let's start with Igris. His armament provides him with additional crit rate and crit damage, starting from 2.5 to 15% when maxed. This ensures that his hits have much higher chance to deliver crits. This syncs up nicely with the skill Blade Axle, which increases attack by 100%, making it have a higher chance to deal additional overall damage. And this armament skill, Lightning Crash, can stun the enemy for 1 second, giving you a brief window to reposition or control the battlefield. With this, I'll place Igris on the S tier. He offers great personal damage through his enhanced crit stats, and the additional crowd control is always welcome. This makes him more reliable and a well-rounded shadow. Moving on to Tank. His armament provides him with defense penetration to a maximum of 15%, plus an additional damage dealt to monsters up to 50% at max level. This makes him particularly strong when farming since he can now hit harder on non-boss monsters, making dungeon clear a little bit faster. And this armament skill is also pure damage with no additional utility. His focus remains purely on boosting his damage output. For me, I'll place Tank in the B tier. Even though his personal damage is boosted with the armament, a lack of additional utility that can help your hunter makes him not a good investment for starters. Alright, moving on to Iron. His armament makes him tougher. It increases his HP to a maximum of 15%, plus additional shield acquisition chance up to 36%. His armament skill is a great utility with lots of effects. It can apply a defense decrease debuff to enemies hit, decreases damage taken of your shadows, plus increase of 10% of shadows skill damage. With this, I'll place Iron in the S tier. He may not offer the highest personal damage output, but his durability and supporting capability is above everyone else. His armament skill plus his shield skill from unlocking Elite Knight is a secure combo to safeguard these shadows. Next is Blades. His armament increases his attack and defense penetration stats to a maximum of 15%, which is really a nice boost to his offensive capabilities. His other skills will greatly sync with this. Spinning Strike can increase his attack by 100%, and Silent Strike increases his crit rate by 50%. This makes Blades increase his overall damage output in a significant manner. Additionally, her armament skill can stun the target for 1 second, adding a valuable crowd control to his kit. And with that, I'll place Blades on the S tier. His increased personal damage output plus the additional crowd control effect makes him a reliable choice across various contents. Next is Tusk. His armament makes him deal more damage to enemies below 50% of their HP, a great addition to his kit, making him execute low HP enemies faster. His armament skill inflicts a burn that deals 30% of his attack every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. Technically, this is a weaker version of Service passive, but his armament will be able to compensate to it once the enemies are below 50% HP. I'll place Tusk in the A tier. He excels in finishing off weakened enemies with his armament passive, plus the burn effect will ramp up its damage when the condition is triggered. Moving on to Serbi. His armament increases his skill damage when hitting enemies with combustion debuff up to a maximum of 50%. Combustion is easy to set up too since he has 2 skills that can inflict it, and the great thing is, once it is applied, the debuff duration is infinite, making the armament passive applied every time. His armament skill can also inflict combustion on top of his other 2 skills, and it has the same passive where it inflicts 50% attack every 3 seconds. plus increased damage taken with infinite duration. With this, I'll place Serbi on the SS tier. He can deliver continuous and substantial damage with his combustion debuff, plus the increase of skill damage is a great addition to his personal damage output. Moving on to Big Rock. Big Rock's armament triggers when the shadow is hit, reducing the target's attack up to 15% for 5 seconds and lowering the attack's defense up to 30% for 5 seconds. These debuffs are actually very helpful, but the time is too short to be considered good. Also, his armament skill is pure damage with no additional effect or utility. With this, I'll place Big Rock on B tier. Although his new debuffs are useful in some scenarios, the short duration and limited scope of his effects makes him less impactful compared to other shadows. It might be a different scenario if Big Rock gets hit on the whole duration, which makes the passive reset every time. But aside that setup, he'll sit on B tier. Next is Kaisel. Kaisel's armament boosts crit hit damage up to 24% and increases damage dealt to bosses up to 30%, making Kaisel a great asset when dealing with boss monsters. Paired with this other skill that can increase attack for 100%, bosses will now cry when facing Kaisel. Like Big Rock, Kaisel doesn't offer additional utility with this armament skill. It focuses more on its personal damage. With that, I'll place Kaisel on the A tier. Its advantages are focused on boss fights, plus his overall utility is limited compared to other shadows that offers more versatility and damage. And last but not the least, Beru. Beru's armament significantly increases his healing given by 15% up to a staggering 90%. It also raises his defense penetration by up to 15%, providing great sustain and offense. Beru has a skill that can heal 10% HP, and with this passive at max, he can heal 19% at most. His other skills also deals great damage, which makes the defense penetration stat increase very valuable. His armament skill can also inflict a debuff that makes the enemies take 5% more damage for 20 seconds, enhancing overall team damage output. Note that this doesn't stack with other debuff that has similar effect. And with that, I'll place Beru on the SS tier. His enhanced healing paired with a debuff is a great combination, particularly in longer battles where sustain is necessary. And that's our full breakdown of the new Shadow Armaments, from Igris to Beru. Each shadow brings a unique mix of damage boost and utility, and your choice may depend on your playstyle and the challenges you face. Let me know in the comments on which Shadow Armament you're trying to get first. And don't forget to subscribe for more solo leveling tier lists and guides. Thanks for watching, Hunters, and until next time, happy gaming!